Welcome to Training Tip Tuesday. This week we look more at the sales process. I'm Courtney Cooper, owner of C Square Farm and partner in Excel Star Sport Horses. So this is our process. We'd love to hear from you. Our main goal is always to have happy clients and happy horses so that they go on and do great things. And to that end, we'll go to extra lengths. But this video just reflects a little bit about our process. It's certainly not the only way you can do things, but it's the way that we work. We try to be very honest and transparent and take pride in the matches that we make so that our horses and our riders become the testament to who we are. So now you're walking out to the ring. Watch how the horse carries himself. Does he walk casually down? Is he quiet as stirrups are adjusted? Does he stand at the mounting block? Are there any outside distractions? Our ring's sort of set down, and so you have horses walking sometimes above you or below you. So you just want to see, how quiet is the horse? Does he stand at the mounting block? Is he quiet when he walks off? These are all really important things that may not seem important at the moment, but actually are very important as time goes on. So now we start evaluating gaits. So I always like to see all three of the horses gait. Here you see our young horse, Guidam's Cavalier, in the trot. It's loose and open. Then we move on to the canter. Again, quiet, his head soft, good transition down to the trot, and then some walk. We didn't get a whole lot of video of him on the flat, but we'll get more on different horses. After that process, I like to move on to some jumping work. I always ask the client if they want to see some jumping work. Sometimes they won't have liked something they've seen in the horse's flat work. And so I just ask, hey, is this a horse you'd like to see jump? You always want to do, I think, less than more so that the client gets a sense of who the horse is, and then they can push the buttons. If they want to do more, you can certainly always ask, would you like to see some different things? So this horse, I've walked around a little bit. I've had a little conversation with Paige about the horse. And I'm just going to pick up the canter, and you can see he picks up the canter nice and soft. He's just a 4-year-old, so I'm real happy with how he's been. Paige is an amateur rider, so she's looking for a nice horse for her to go on and do with. This horse at the beginning might be a little green, but you never know. Some people really like to take a young horse and bring it along. But it's all up to the seller and to the buyer to talk, right? Ideally, you want to have a good sense of communication. And you can see here the first time I jumped the vertical, I jumped it off a long approach, and the second time I jumped it off a shorter approach. So it's nice to see that the horse can do that. Then I continue to the box in the middle of the ring. So a short square turn, not the easiest thing. I'd like to see that the horses land on both leads. Then the next thing that I like to see is I like to see the horse jump some filler. There's that box we started on, but then you can see that there's this black box, black upright, which is important to see. Then I'd like to also see that the horse can come down a line. You can see that this horse actually, when he jumps the Soxer, just lets his hind end trail a little and has the rail. Again, the next question would be, how does he jump the next jump? But you can see that Paige liked him well enough, and so she set on him to go work away. And what I always try as a seller is, if I have multiple rides, which is one of the things that I can do that most people can't, is I always like to start with one of my quietest horses. It puts everybody at ease, and no matter who you are, you're always anxious when you ride the first horse. So one of the things I always like to ask my clients when they first get on, or do you feel safe? Are you comfortable? Because those are always big questions to ask. Because a lot of times you're not going to be in a supervised riding situation. And so you want to make sure that the horse and you feel confident. You want to make sure that you can sit the horse's trot and post the trot. You can also sit the canter, and you saw Paige there got up in 2 point. you just want to do different things. So when you first get on a horse, I always like to make sure that we have breaks, and so we do some transitions, a little walk trot transition, trot walk transition, just to, like I said, make sure that everybody is sort of feeling like they can do everything together. You want to make sure that the horse has a good way about him, and see where you feel about the horse. Now Paige with this horse sort of at this point was feeling like the horse might be a little bit too green. We were fortunate that we had 3 others for her to look at. So at the end of the day, she walked, trotted, and cantered on this horse. And then she decided, you know, I'd like to see the other ones. So don't be afraid of saying, look, I want to see the other horses. So now you can see Paige. She's on our next horse. This is a 6-year-old and has a little more experience. And Paige was immediately more drawn to him because she wants something with a little bit of mileage. This horse has jumped in the meter 10s in Ireland, meter 15s, in school cross country. And so she spends a good long time with this horse and getting to know him. And one of the things that you'll find when you're starting to get to know a horse is that you'll make mistakes. And it's the big question as a professional I have, both in the buying process and the selling process, is how does that horse tolerate that mistake? A lot of times the horses will be coming out of professional programs and will not have been ridden by an amateur or a junior. And so it's real important to have your own instructor or just have someone you trust with you, or someone you can have watch the videos, and to say, look, do you think that this horse will deal with my mistakes? So here is Paige working away, and she's working on getting him a little rounder and more of a dressage frame. One of the things that, because she liked the horse, we spent a lot of time working on sort of putting him together. She doesn't have a lot of experience riding a lot of different horses, and so it was fun to play with her a little bit on this. And so we were able to get him a little rounder, a little bit deeper. Again, trying a horse isn't the time to have a lesson, but sometimes you can get some good help from the seller. Before we started jumping, we needed to work on the canter. So one of the things to remember when you go to canter and when you're working away is that a lot of times the horses have different cues than you're used to giving. So you need to make sure that you ask the way the horse is used to being asked, because it's a little bit like a first date. You want to do everything right, but you always have those sort of awkward moments where you're like, I really like you, but can you help me out? So, you know, if you have a moment like that when you ask for the canter and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, no, and then you take a half halt and you maybe break to trot, don't be afraid of just saying, okay, I can make this work, and asking for some help maybe from the seller, right? There will be those times where you can't make it work regardless, and in which case that horse probably isn't the horse for you. But here we go. We're going to start jumping, and I'm lucky enough to have some Cavaletti in my ring. So Paige felt comfortable trotting him over some Cavalettis, and so that was her first jump of the day. It's always nice to get that out of the way. And so she felt comfortable trotting that, but then she decided she'd canter. But then you can see there was some miscommunication, and so then we were back to the trot. The big thing is just remember to keep whatever pace you have, right? It's always nice to have a horse that you can see sort of what happens when, you know, you make a mistake, when they break to trot. So in this case, you can see her trotting over the cross rail. That went really well. And so we did that a couple of times. Again, you want to make sure as a seller, you get the buyer real comfortable, right? There's no point in making them jump huge jumps if they're really not comfortable, because then they're just going to get scared. So in this case, we started off over the cross rail a couple of times. Then we decided to jump the cross rail and then just have a little canter down the line. Now you will be occasionally at some places when you're trying horses, and they might just have 1 or 2 fences set up in the ring. And that's a little bit of what I would call a dealer's trick, because you want to see a horse jump in and then just quietly canter down the line like this horse is doing, right? Especially if you're an amateur or junior. You don't want to have to produce a quiet ride down the line. And so if you only have single fences and you really feel like you want to have a line, ask them to build a line. It's not a big deal. You should be able to get that done, but more on that later. So in my case, I'm fortunate to have a few little cross-country jumps. And so we decided after jumping this horse in the ring that we liked him. And so we took him out and we jumped a few fences outside that Paige was comfortable with. We just started off with this nice cross rail. Do things that you feel safe with. If all of a sudden you don't feel safe, don't do it anymore. So now we're back in the ring, and now you can see Reese is actually showing our third horse. This is another youngster. It's a big gangly youngster we have. And so Reese has been riding him and getting ready to compete him. And so she showed him like the second horse. And you can see Paige is sitting on him. And, it's just probably at the end of the day, not really her ride. But she gave it a go. And what I would encourage both buyers and sellers to do is you never quite know if it'll work, especially coming off of a horse that you've really had a good ride on. You want to give the next horse a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, and sort of play around with them and have a good time with them and see what they're about. And then also you can see there's a helicopter. It's always nice to know how the horses will react with an outside distraction. So you can see that horse didn't really seem to care much about helicopters. We also get Amish buggies going down our road, which can be exciting for horses sometimes. So anyway, you can see Paige is giving it a good go. She's feeling him out. She's thinking to herself, I think, well, this horse is a little narrower than the last horse. I'm not sure I really like a horse that's this narrow. It's also got a little bit more thoroughbred blood in it than the last horse. So I'm not sure I really like that. But I really like his size. So that's a plus. And so the other thing you can do is if you're on a buying trip or if you're fortunate enough to be able to see multiple horses in one place, is you can start comparing them and contrasting them and saying, oh, I really like this piece about this horse, or I really like that piece about that horse, and trying to piece them all together, both for you as a buyer so that you can help figure out what you're looking for, and then also to talk to the seller, because a lot of times if you say, look, I really like X about the first horse and Y about the second horse and Z about the third horse, they can be like, oh, I know a horse like that, and I can set up an appointment for you to go to see that horse. Most of the time in an area such as ours, Chester County, Pennsylvania, a lot of us know each other and will help each other out and be happy to send clients from one farm to another. It's something we do quite often. So you can see Paige is working away here, and I think she goes to canter next. And off she goes. You can see this horse, she's just not as comfortable naturally with them. And again, it's one of those things as a seller, you can just recognize and say, not her horse, not her day, but she gave it a good go. And I think as a buyer, give it an honest try. So now Paige has been on 3 horses. It's been a while. And so a lot of times what we'll do is we'll stop for a snack, something to drink, something to eat, just to sort of give people a little bit of a break. Here we are on number 4 for the day. Paige has been doing a great job, but she's been getting tired. She said so, which is great to know. And so she wants to come back and evaluate this last horse probably more fully on another day when she's feeling more up to riding. That's a great thing to know as a rider that you can say. So where do you go from here? Well, in Paige's case, we talked about her coming back and trying the horses. From a buyer's standpoint, you may not want to put all your cards on the table about what you liked and what you didn't like, but it's always real helpful to the seller to know that, because they may have other horses that they know about, that they can tell you about. And it's also helpful to them to know that, hey, nothing looks like it's going to work out for us, but we appreciate your time and your effort. Also, from the seller standpoint, It's nice to know that you like their horses and that you appreciate you took the time to show them to you. So happy horse hunting. Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.